is no longer there. He wasn't really contributing points. He wasn't really contributing to the success of the team, just getting in foul trouble and sort of just hanging around. So now we look at Embiid. Again, Embiid is over the last 4 games, he's averaging 30 points a game, 13 and a half rebounds, at least 1 block, and is playing significant minutes. He's almost 34 minutes per game. So he's in a lot of the time. He's playing most of it. He's somehow, staying at least in shape and not gassed by the end of the games we saw last year as we got to playoffs. And he's really carrying this team on his back. So now that Simmons is out, it's really Embiid's team as we always knew. It's Embiid's team through and through. He's going to have to control down low. He's going to have to control this team's flow and really will them further and along in the playoffs.
Welcome to the ChadBurn Show, brought to you by M. Chad Baldwin.
Welcome to the ChadBurn Show. I am your host, ChadBurn, and we are ready again for another awesome episode of the ChadBurn Show, episode number 45. So excited to be back again this week to record, to talk about some big news around both the NBA, the NHL. Today, I think I'll discuss early on, like I said, it's definitely going to be a baseball, basketball-oriented episode. There's some big news coming for the Sixers. Just released, obviously, yesterday, more details on the Ben Simmons injury and how it'll impact them. We'll also go over a little bit of the NBA and how it's looking. And the overarching question for me, which, again, going to be a little more local Philadelphia question, is going to be, are the 76ers the worst team in Philadelphia right now? I'm going to make a case for that. But without further ado, we're going to get into, obviously, the big news that came out, I think it was yesterday. So recording, obviously, Sunday, the 9th, August 9th. But yesterday, we turned out that Ben Simmons went from being indefinitely out with a dislocated kneecap to being out for the rest of the season, getting surgery on his knee. He has now left the bubble. He is not going to be coming back. He is out. So the Sixers are going to have to figure it out without him for the rest of the way in the NBA bubble. Obviously, before they head into the playoffs, the Sixers again secured a spot in the playoffs. They're good to go. What really is left right now is determining where they'll end up. Will they continue to stay in the 5th, 6th seed? Will they drop further? Can they move up and possibly take the 4th seed away from the Heat? Looking unlikely right now. But where will they stand? Ben Simmons, again, injured and off the team, but is that really a loss for the 76ers? He was playing for the first 3 games, 11.7 points. He's averaging 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and only playing 28 minutes because of some soreness and also foul trouble he had in one game. I believe with Spurs, he was out early with 6 fouls, only 8 points. So Ben Simmons was having a little trouble finding his groove. Wasn't able really to attack the paint as well as he used to. Clearly not using a jump shot again, which I warned everyone to be a little prepared for that to happen. He's shooting, obviously, before in the warm-up games, before the restart of the NBA, but once again decides to not shoot the ball when it matters. So instead, the players that have obviously stood out have been Embiid and Tobias Harris. The other two are supposed to be the three-headed monster that are the 76ers with Simmons, Embiid, and Harris. But Simmons has been nowhere to be seen. So really, with his injury, do we expect a large slide from the Sixers? I don't know if we do. Simmons was very critical before this NBA restart. We saw that the 76ers played better with Simmons on the court when Embiid was off. There was a little flow. There was obviously more space in the paint for Simmons to get what he wants to get done, which is be able to drive to the basket, take advantage, kick out to better shooters. It worked well for the offense that kind of Brett Brown had designed, which is a three-point shooting offense, penetrate, kick out, penetrate, kick out. When you have Embiid down there, obviously the ball goes through him in the paint. There's not so much room for Simmons to make moves. You kind of are focused on Embiid. The offense becomes one single-minded. What's been nice to see from what was existed in the season before the restart to what we have now is that the offense is becoming a little more cohesive with Embiid on the court. It clearly is Embiid's game. It's clearly Embiid's team, but there's still some more players coming along that are actually contributing to the offense a little more. Obviously, Harris used to do it before, but we're seeing some defense from Thibault, offense. Shake Milton has come clutch in several instances. Richardson's back out, starting to contribute. Korkmaz, I hate him because he's so inconsistent, but also doing some pretty well on the offense. He's stringing along a lot of points to help this team stay in games. And coaching is still a nightmare, but, at least the team is starting to look a little better with Embiid out there. So Simmons is no longer there. He wasn't really contributing points. He wasn't really contributing to the success of the team, just getting in foul trouble and sort of just hanging around. So now we look at Embiid. Again, Embiid is over the last 4 games, he's averaging 30 points a game, 13 and a half rebounds, at least 1 block, and is playing significant minutes. He's almost 34 minutes per game. So he's in a lot of the time. He's playing most of it. He's somehow, staying at least in shape and not gassed by the end of the games we saw last year as we got to playoffs. And he's really carrying this team on his back. So now that as Simmons is out, it's really Embiid's team as we always knew. It's Embiid's team through and through. He's going to have to control down low. He's going to have to control this team's flow and really will them further and along in the playoffs. I don't see how this team gets anywhere without Embiid being an absolute superstar throughout all of it. And like I said, we see a big supporting cast that is starting to kind of emerge that could give the Sixers at least some help throughout. I mean, they're 3-1 right now in the bubble. They haven't been playing very good teams. They should have been dominating these teams, really. When you play the Spurs, when you play the Wizards, when you play the Magic, you should be destroying those teams. Now, the Pacers are another whole ballgame because we did not expect TJ Warren to be the MVP of this NBA bubble. I mean, the kid is out of his mind, averaging over 30 points a game. He's playing on top of the world. The way he played against the Sixers was mind. I didn't expect to see it from TJ Warren. But clearly, he's a front runner to be the MVP of the bubble. So I'm okay that they lost that game. But on the other games, they really should have been in it much longer. But obviously, the supporting cast of Tobias Harris, who also is averaging almost 25 points a game, 6 rebounds. He's playing. He's almost 40% from 3. That needs to get up there. But he's playing 34 minutes as well. So you have your 2 stars of that 3-headed monster are doing great. As I mentioned before, Shake Milton had a big go-ahead shot against the Spurs, making it 3 late. We have someone that at least can replace Ben Simmons a little bit with a point guard that understands it, has been practicing the position with Shake Milton. So we have a little hope there. Again, shooting has gone better, I'd say. Richardson's shooting well from 3. Korkmaz's shooting well from 3. And the one player that I'm really happy to see get into his own and get into his zone in the bubble now is Horford. Al Horford really seems to be playing a lot better. I like his consistency down low. He's becoming what we had hoped which would be as a defensive presence in the paint. He's still got a shot from outside. He's still a threat when Embiid is off the court. So we know that at least we have some relief we can give Embiid. But again, this is a big man lineup. This is a lineup that is designed to go through the big man of Embiid. It's designed to be a pounding game down low. He's really supposed to be on the block, really tire the other team out low, and hopefully get some opportunities outside. I'm happy to see Brett Brown's strategy has changed a little bit, but he still obviously really wants a 3-point game. We see a lot of shots taken, still a lot of shots missed because we don't really have that consistent over 40, 45% for 3-point shooter, but it's coming along. What is still always annoying me, though, is while Brett Brown is starting to adjust, there is still some lack of preparedness around this team. This team is consistently looking slow from the start, looking sluggish, unable to really get things going when they need to get things going. In the fourth quarter, it's been very scary seeing some of these teams catch up. If we look over the last 4 games, let's think of it this way. The Sixers were up 87-81 going into the fourth quarter against the Pacers and end up losing that 127-121. Completely blew it in the fourth quarter. When they were playing the Spurs, they were down 87-99 going into the fourth quarter. And they rallied, luckily, to win by 2 points thanks to a Shake Milton 3-pointer. When they played the Wizards, it was, again, they were up 77-74 going into the fourth, and it was still close all the way to the end, and they should have pulled away. And the same with going with the Magic. The Magic were up by 2 going into the fourth. So what is annoying me is that Brett Brown isn't able to get his team off to a running start against some of these worst teams. The Spurs, Magic, and the Wizards, they should not be close going to the fourth, nor should they be losing going to the fourth. They should be well ahead. They should be able to kind of just put the game to sleep at that fourth quarter. There should be no problem with them having to either catch up, either to maintain lead. It really should not be an issue. And it seems that they are taking these teams almost not seriously enough. Brett Brown doesn't seem to be preparing them well going into the game. And then when the fourth quarter comes, either we're letting leads slip and we're having to battle back to win, or we're constantly playing from behind. I don't see this as a winning formula going forward, because if they're going to play the better teams like the Heat, like the Celtics, like the Pacers again, like the Bucks, they're going to get crushed before they even get to the fourth quarter. I really think this team has some chemistry and could be successful, but right now, I mean, already lost a superstar. Yes, Embiid and Harris are playing well, but they're not playing well enough to carry the entire team. If they cannot find at least 2 more superstars on the bench to get support and have the coaching staff prepare the whole team and develop a strategy that is going to work against these better offenses and defenses, there is no way that the Sixers go far. They lose the first round of the playoffs, in my opinion. I just don't see how they can really consistently go far with the kind of formula they have built in. They're not a three-point shooting team, and that's what Brett Brown's likes to do. They are a great team down low, but for whatever reason, there's not enough movement down the low block to get people open. You'd think that they'd be able to move the ball around well with very good, I would say, assist-oriented players like Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons when he was out there, and Richardson, but they're just not getting that done. I would love to see every player get the ball before they shoot. If they want to be a three-point team, they need to move the ball around, because if they're not, those players on the wing are not going to get open. If you're not constantly throwing it down low, getting everyone to touch it, moving the defenses over left to right to get people open on the wings, it's just not going to work to be able to shoot all that. There's a lot of contested threes that the Sixers are trying to take and make. It's not happening. And luckily down low, Embiid is keeping them in the games because he's so dominant, but there needs to be more of the other players helping him out. I don't see the Sixers going far in this game. I mean, it's really been fun to see the teams that are getting great. I mean, the Suns look fantastic. I don't know if they make it in the West. It's a really close one there. They look excellent. The Portland Trailblazers look good in the West. In the East, the Heat have come out and look fantastic. Duncan Robinson is one of my favorite players now. That guy shoots kind of like a Kyle Korver, where he is constantly falling and fading away, yet can make almost any three-pointer he puts up there. It's remarkable. I love watching him shoot. They almost beat the Bucks without Jimmy Butler. They're coming away and beating the Celtics. I mean, the Heat look great. And they're going to be an absolute force to deal with in the playoffs. I think the Celtics look great. And the fact the Bucks are the ones that look like they're slipping, even though they're winning games, there's this kind of play that they don't look fully dominant as they used to, because the Celtics are beating them. The Heat push them all the way to the fourth quarter. You know, they just don't look like the team they used to be. Luka Doncic really took them to town, really the West versus East Coast game. So, I mean, it's really interesting to see. Raptors look fantastic. I mean, so really what we're seeing right now is the Sixers have to compete against such great teams to even have a shot really to win anything in this playoff run. The West looks competitive. The East is going to be insane at the top. I mean, I really don't know where to go from that. I mean, my fan favorites right now are obviously the Raptors and the Heat coming out of the East. I think the Bucks are good, but there's something about it where I feel like they don't have the hunger or the drive. I don't know how to explain it, but when you watch them play, yes, their talent is able to will them over the line, and Giannis can usually get it done. But their defense makes me nervous. I don't know if their defense is going to be good enough to really stop the really tough teams when they get on a roll. I don't know in a 5-7 game series whether or not they're going to be consistent enough to win those series. I think the Heat have a cohesiveness that is really impressive. They move the ball around so well, and they get such great open shots. So I love the way the Heat play. The Celtics have so much talent on the bench, on the starting five, that I think they can play deep, and they're never going to be tired. They're going to consistently be able to get good games out of their entire players. So the Celtics and Heat, I think, look fantastic in these. And the Raptors look like, I mean, they have a better record right now than they did with Kawhi Leonard on the team. So, of course, I put the Raptors up there. But I really think dark horses and teams that would represent the East later on could be the Celtics and the Heat. I mean, I'll get into that later, but, I mean, those, I think, are great teams there. So Sixers have a lot to deal with, and I don't think they're going to be able to do it with just Embiid and Harris playing the majority of the minutes and getting the most points. There has to be a better team. There has to be better coaching, and that will always be, if they lose early in the playoffs, Brett Brown has to go. That's the fact. I've said this all year. I don't think Brett Brown has adapted enough. He now doesn't have Simmons. I don't think he's going to be able to make a game plan that works without Simmons in the lineup. I really am fearful of that. And there's no defense. Like, who is going to defend for the Sixers the point guards? Tyball's not ready to go. Richardson's all right, but it loses often. Harris cannot defend the best 1-2 guard on the other team. We're great down low with defense, but like on the perimeter, who's going to be our defensive players there? I don't think we're going to have enough to slow any of these teams down, to slow their scoring to keep us in it. If the Bucks, if the Heat, if the Celtics, I mean, whoever we were to face, if they were ever to get going shooting the three ball, the Sixers are done. There's just not enough perimeter defense to slow anyone that is a decent enough shooter from three. If their game is down low, we have a great chance. But if it's outside, there's no shot for it. The Sixers just aren't built to defend those types of teams. And they're not built to score enough to keep up. You have the teams like the Rockets who play small ball, who the defense gone better, and we saw that especially against the Bucks a few weeks ago. But in general, the Rockets score enough that they can be in any game. Because even if they're not able to defend the perimeter or down low and the team starts chipping away at them, they will score enough to always be in that game. The Sixers cannot score enough to be in those games. It's just not going to happen. The offense basically at late will always run through Embiid. And there's going to be so much focus on Embiid. And if the teams can double him consistently and actually hold him from scoring, who is going to pick up the slack? Because again, if Embiid's not scoring, Harris is your option, so you defend him. If Harris and Embiid are getting blocked up, who's going to score after that? You just don't have a big enough threat in the Sixers to make a deep run. So that leads me to then my question after talking this, continue to just talk on and on about the Sixers, is really, who's the worst team in Philadelphia? Because right now we have 3 teams in Philadelphia playing, and we're trying to figure out who is better. The Sixers were kind of considered to be the bright spot amongst these teams and who could really make a run for us, right? After the Eagles had a disappointing loss in the first round of the playoffs in the 2019 season, we were talking about who's going to be the bright spot in 2020. Obviously, COVID stopped most of this, but we thought it'd be the Sixers. But I don't think the Sixers are the best team in Philadelphia now. I mean, let's run through it. The Phillies now have only played 8 games, which is still the second lowest of all the MLB teams. They're only behind the Marlins, who played 9 games, and above the Cardinals, who have played 5 games. So they still have a long way to go. But if we look at the Phillies, they are number 2 in the league with the OPS behind the Yankees. They are killing, their hit and home run ratio is just, they're killing it right now. And so they're either on base or they're scoring runs. They're doing a stellar job on defense. Nola and Wheeler have been looking great. I mean, if we look into Nola and Wheeler right now, try and pull up their stats here. I mean, Wheeler is 2-0 after 2 starts. He has a 2.0 ERA and a 1.154 whip. He's just consistently keeping the score low. He's pitching well. He's getting strikeouts where it needs to go, and he's keeping his team in the game because we know the Phillies don't have a strong bullpen, but the starting pitching is doing great. They're keeping up. And Nola, who hasn't won a game yet, but after 2 starts, but has kept him in the game, a 7.94 whip. He has a 3.97 ERA, but he has the stuff to really get batters out, which is what was it when they played the Yankees. Again, one of the most successful teams against the Yankees, who are the best team in the MLB right now, have been, absolutely dominant with their offensive production. The Sixers actually were able to contain, not Sixers, again, Phil in my head. The Phillies were actually able to contain them. The pitching was good enough to frustrate the power hitters. They're able to do really well. And not to mention, sitting behind Wheeler and Nola is Arrieta, who was one of the best pitchers in the game. So we know if he gets going, he will get going and be great. So you have 2 great pitchers who are being successful for the Phillies. You have a great hitting team. I mean, Didi's batting at .321 with 2 home runs and 4 RBIs. Again, only 8 games. And he still has a stat line. JT Realmuto is looking great with .333 batting average and 4 home runs and 9 RBIs. And Harper, who is only hitting at .292, which is not bad, but is not great for Harper, he still has an on-base percentage of .469. So if he isn't striking out, he's hitting home runs or getting on base. So you consistently have players in a scoring position for the Phillies. If the batting starts getting rolling, they're going to score more runs. Not to mention, they have won 3 of their last 4 games against tough opponents, namely the Yankees. And they're sticking in with this. They are also number 8 in the MLB right now in the batting average. And number 1 in the MLB in on-base percentage. They're getting players on base. They're actually hitting the ball. It may not be a huge slugging percentage. They may not be killing the ball out of the park, but they're at least consistently getting on base and hitting the ball. It's really, it's just, I don't really know how else to put it, but that the Phillies have been just this amazing bright spot right now for the Philadelphia teams. Because when they started out, they were losing. It looked, again, like it's going to be a tough season. They're really going to have to struggle. But, again, they're number 2 in the league on base plus slugging percentage. I don't know how that's happening. But, again, they're getting on, and they are able to hit in runs. So you combine that with decent pitching, I think the Phillies have a great chance to get far. Again, they are very far behind in how many games they've played, but they at least look like a solid team, and they have a solid manager now. We know Girardi's a good manager, so if he can maintain and get the starting pitching, get enough done out of them, and not have to rely too hard on the bullpen and get the offense running, I think you've got a solid team there. All in all, I mean, the Phillies are really coming together, and I think they just look better than the Sixers right now. Like, they look like a better team consistently than the Sixers. If they can get a full season played without any more COVID issues, I think the Phillies could really come through. When you got great hitting combined with a solid enough defense from the pitchers, why not? And then you turn to look at another team playing right now in Philadelphia, and that's the Flyers. And the Flyers, I mean, you got to be kidding me. They just secured the number 1 seed in the East after playing terrible in a Hackstall, where we thought that this was just not a good team. There wasn't enough talent there. To have this new coaching regime come in and just completely turn them around, it's incredible. Again, I will preface this by saying I will not pretend to know the ins and outs of hockey, right? I do not follow it very closely, but I know enough to see a good team. The Flyers look just solid on both defense and offense on that team. Every line they put out there is able to produce. I mean, from Giroux to Konechny to Voracek and Coutier. See, again, don't watch enough hockey. I'm gonna mess up these names, but I know them there. I mean, they just look like a solid team. I mean, they have only given up 1 goal over the last 3, 1 goal in each of the last 3 games of the round robin they had, because obviously they advanced, they played it. I mean, and against really good offensive teams. Carter Hart looks amazing. He gave up 1 goal to the Bruins. He gave up 1 goal to the Lightning. And he gave up 1 goal. What was the other team they played? Capitals. So, like, all very solid offensive teams. They're only giving 1 goal to. They won all 3. I mean, they're going to face the Canadiens in the next round. And now I live up in Montreal now. And being around, and like, people are so hyped about the Canadiens, because don't forget, that was a team that statistically before COVID happened was out of the playoffs, right? They had no shot to make the playoffs. Now that the playoffs extended, they beat the series against the Penguins. So they feel hot. They feel like they're ready to go. Like, they are excited to get this happening and get the ball rolling. Well, get the puck rolling. So they're pumped to go, but they're going to play against the Flyers, who look excellent. I mean, the matchup, that is going to be a great series to watch. I mean, playoff hockey, there's nothing better. I mean, I don't watch hockey most of the season. I'll catch games here and there, but the playoff hockey, I will watch every game because it's so amazing. So I'm excited to see it, but the Flyers look like a better team than the Sixers. They do. I mean, they are favored. They could easily represent the East in the Stanley Cup Finals. It is so exciting to see. So, I mean, I don't know. When you have the Phillies who are coming together and making good run in baseball, you have the Flyers who are representing basically the East right now, leading it off with solid defense, very solid defense, good enough scoring on offense. I mean, that is a team that's going to go far. And then, the other team, obviously in Philadelphia, would be the Eagles. And while they haven't started their season yet, there's always high hopes. They did make the playoffs last year. They have a solid enough offense with a quarterback we can rely on and believe in. We got wide receivers coming in. We have defensive help. Enough reason to believe that they are going to have at least a decent season and make the playoffs. But again, that's still, I would say, more than the hope we have of the Eagles is more hope than we have in the Sixers. So it's incredible to see that we went from Sixers being our saviors of the Philadelphia sports world to now being the bottom tier team of all the teams we have right there. And it's incredible. I mean, I really had a lot of hope for the Sixers going in, but there's no way they make a run. There's just not. There's no shot. The NBA looks great right now. I mean, like, there's just so many teams playing such great basketball. I don't see how the Sixers can stack up against that. But we'll see. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's a great time to be a Philadelphia sports fan. There's a lot of teams to root for. There's a lot of excitement. The sports world is happening. There's a lot going on. Like I said, this was a Philadelphia-focused episode to all the Philly fans out there. To anyone that's not a Philadelphia sports fan, I apologize for listening in, but, get some insights from those that are real fans around it. But, when we analyze it, it's just I don't see Sixers going far. Simmons now with the injury, I don't see how he... without him, how this goes far. And it's really disappointing because Simmons, again, does not look solid. There's talks that the Cavs have a favorable trade offer to make for Simmons. We'll see whether or not the Sixers bite on that. Will they decide to put all their eggs in the Embiid basket? believe that Embiid can stay healthy and come back for another 4 years and consistently play at a top level. I mean, that's a tough one. Will he get injured? Will he be able to play a full season? I mean, always with Embiid, you don't know about the health and the in-shape factor of playing a long season and playing long minutes. I mean, averaging over 30 minutes a game for a whole season for Embiid is going to be tough for him as the years go on. So do you move on from a Simmons to focus around Embiid and build up enough supporting cast of shooters on the perimeter and point guards and defensive point guards that can really help him out and help out the Sixers team in the long run? We're going to see as we go along. It's going to be very interesting, but I'll be fascinated to see how they stack up as the year goes on and really how the playoffs will play out. I wanted to get off my chest where I feel about the Sixers in the ecosystem of the Philadelphia sports franchises and how they'll be performing going on. Well, that right there is going to wrap it up for the ChadBurn Show. We will obviously be back next week with another episode of the ChadBurn Show. Until then, please, while you're out there, stay healthy, stay safe, continue to enjoy the sports world and what they bring to us right now and root on your teams. Excited for as the playoffs get closer and as, obviously NHL playoffs are underway, the NBA playoffs starting soon, and the MLB season is continuing to play. So great stuff. We'll have more for you next week. Thank you for listening. As always, have a good evening and good night. Thank you for listening to the ChadBurn Show. Remember to check out all new episodes every Monday at 7 p.m. on Google Podcasts, Apple iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and all major platforms where you listen to your podcast. If you'd like to get in touch with me and want to send in your questions or requests for topics to discuss in the show, you can email chadburn.show@gmail.com. All episodes have video recorded, which is then posted to our YouTube channel, The ChadBurn Show. Be sure to subscribe to us where you get your podcasts or on our YouTube channel to stay up to date with all our new content. You can also follow the show on Instagram at ChadBurn Show and on Facebook, The ChadBurn Show, to see clips from previously recorded episodes and information on all upcoming shows.